All right, moving on along to Scorpio or the ENFP fixed modality within their personality. So, fixed, the bull. We have Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius are all the fixed signs in the 12 personality types of the zodiac. Fixed signs fall in the middle of a season: Taurus in the middle of spring, Leo in summer, Scorpio in fall, and Aquarius in winter. So, if it makes sense that they're the stabilizers of the zodiac. So, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, and Taurus are the stabilizers. The Latin root fixus means to latch onto or to fasten. Fixed signs fall in the middle of the season and as the continuation of what's begun. Often they're steady and stable. They fix things in place and are able to engage and sustain activity over a long period. So they definitely have high endurance. Since fixed signs come along as the season is underway, they represent going deeper in pursuing the full realization of what's already begun. They can initiate, but their true gifts emerge when they're able to sink deeply into an ongoing project. The fixed signs have a remarkable ability to persevere, and often they're models of solo productivity. So they can tend to prefer to work alone. They enjoy those peak moments of achievement, but seem most at home with themselves when immersed in a sustained, worthwhile, challenging pursuit. For fixed earth, Taurus digs into the earth and builds with real elements to construct a solid life. Taurus moves slowly and deliberately and wants to create things that last. So, the positive aspects of the fixed signs: these signs are the holders, the ones that provide the essential focus, form, and structure that enable the world to function. They are the wood that retains the nail, the coach that holds the team together, the CEO who puts place an overarching plan. Being born under a fixed sign often means feeling compelled to acquire the knowledge to solve all problems and to master everything that can possibly be discovered. So, negative aspects of the fixed modality may become rigid and inflexible, convinced of their own righteousness, deaf to others, and closed to approaches other than their own. Being too fixed leads to sterility and inactivity. Why Scorpio is fixed water, the psychological truth. Fixed signs do not adapt, they hold. So Scorpio holds their emotions, their grudges, their memories, their attachments, their desires, their traumas, their boundaries, and their instincts. This creates deep loyalty, emotional endurance, capacity for transformation, and the ability to withstand extreme pressure, but also emotional bottlenecking, emotional secrecy, fear of vulnerability, emotional implosions or explosions, and difficulty letting go. Scorpio feels their own emotional reality so strongly that there's little psychic bandwidth left for what others feel, unless that person has earned access to their inner world. This is why Scorpio can appear distant, cold, guarded, and detached. Selective, private, and intimidating. Their energy says you cannot enter unless you have earned it. Why Scorpio is fixed water, the psychological truth. The emotional iceberg, the sealed vault, the deep pressure chamber of the zodiac. Scorpio is the fixed expression of the water element, and this combination creates one of the most psychologically intense, self contained, and misunderstood emotional systems in the entire zodiac. To understand Scorpio, you must first understand the nature of water and the nature of fixedness. Water equals emotions, like we just went over in the prior video. Water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces live in the realm of feelings, energy, impressions, intuition, emotional memory, psychological depth, internal processing, empathetic awareness, each in very different ways. Water is never rational first. It feels and absorbs long before it analyzes. But Scorpio is not just water. Scorpio is fixed water. And fixed water is not a flowing stream or a chaotic wave. It is ice, still, dense, and pressurized, unmoving on the surface, holding an entire world beneath. Ice preserves, holds, and protects what is inside from the outside. This is Scorpio's psyche. Fixed signs hold, they do not bend. Cardinal signs initiate, mutable signs adapt, and fixed signs endure. They hold. So, what does Scorpio hold? Scorpio holds their emotions, their grudges, their memories, and their attachments, their desires, traumas, boundaries, and their instincts, psychic impressions, their loyalty, their truths, their wounds, and their obsessions. This is not stubbornness, this is emotional imprinting. Once Scorpio feels something deeply, it becomes structural. It becomes encoded, infused to their psyche like bedrock. This is why Scorpio can love for decades and remember betrayal forever. Not because they are vengeful necessarily, but because their emotional body does not forget. A Scorpio will wait 15 years to get revenge, though. I know too much. The psychological result of fixed water. This combination produces one of the deepest emotional systems in the zodiac. Deep loyalty. Once Scorpio lets you in, you have access to a level of devotion and emotional presence most people never experience in their lives. It is ancient, primal, and unconditional in its intensity. Emotional endurance. Scorpio can withstand emotional extremes that would shatter most signs. They do not break, they transform. Capacity for transformation, death, rebirth, and evolution. Scorpio does not heal, Scorpio metamorphosizes. Pain becomes power, loss becomes strength, and darkness becomes wisdom. Pressure tolerance. Like magma beneath the Earth's crust, Scorpio holds emotional pressure until it becomes alchemy. But every shadow has a cost. The shadow of fixed water. Fixed water does not flow outward easily, it turns inward. And that tendency creates emotional bottlenecking. Scorpio feels more than they can express. They store emotions internally until it reaches critical mass. Emotional secrecy, not because they want to manipulate, but because their emotions feel too sacred to expose. Fear of vulnerability. To open the vault is to risk devastation. Scorpio shares only with those proven over time. Emotional implosions or explosions. If pressure builds too long, Scorpio will either implode, withdraw, disassociate, and isolate, or explode, erupt emotionally, sever ties, and go silent permanently. They also door slam like Pisces. Burn the freaking bridge. Difficulty letting go. When fixed water bonds, it bonds for life. And when something becomes part of their emotional identity, releasing it feels like ripping out a piece of themselves. Why Scorpio seems cold but isn't. Scorpio feels so intensely that they must regulate themselves by controlled expression. This often looks like distance, guardedness, emotional minimalism, strategic silence, selective sharing, private processing, intensity without explanation. But the truth is, Scorpio is not emotionless, Scorpio is over full. They feel their own emotional reality so strongly that there's simply not much psychic bandwidth left for what others feel, unless that person has truly learned access. That's why Scorpio's vibe is you cannot enter unless you have earned it. And even then, they will watch you closely at the door. The deeper psychology. Scorpio's emotional system is built around trust and containment. Their inner world is sacred. Their emotions are powerful. Their instincts are ancient. Their loyalty is ferocious, and their boundaries protect their soul. So, Scorpio learns early in life, I cannot open to just anyone. If I feel everything, I must choose carefully who I feel with. If I let you in, you have power over me. And because Scorpio fears vulnerability, they master discernment. Reading motives, sensing agendas, and detecting lies, analyzing patterns, perceiving emotional inconsistencies, watching body language, noticing psychic shifts, and listening between the lines. Other signs see the surface, and Scorpio sees the undercurrent, the core truth. Scorpio's fixed water is not weakness. It is emotional architecture of a sign built for transformation, depth and loyalty, intensity and psychological truth, inner mastery, shadow integration, soul contracts and karmic bonds, and deep healing and rebirth. Scorpio is the pressure that turns coal into diamonds, the ice that preserves treasure under the surface, the well that runs deeper than anyone realizes. Not everyone can handle the world beneath Scorpio's waters, but those who can witness a level of emotional authenticity, power, and devotion that exist nowhere else in the zodiac. The shadow patterns of fixed water. The emotional physics of Scorpio when water freezes, pressurizes, or cracks. Every element has a shadow, but the shadow of fixed water is unique. It is not chaos like Pisces, nor mood cycles like Cancer. Scorpio's shadow emerges when emotional intensity is combined with containment. Number one, emotional hoarding. Scorpio collects experiences like artifacts. Emotions become evidence, memory becomes mythology. When hurt, Scorpio archives the wound, stored, labeled, and preserved. This makes it difficult to move on because the past is not the past. It is frozen beneath the surface, untouched but not forgotten. Number two, disappearing into the ice. When overwhelmed, Scorpio doesn't explode first, they implode. They sink inward, withdrawal into emotional isolation, or go silent. This is not avoidance, it is emotional self preservation. The psyche becomes a pressure chamber where everything is felt intensely but expressed minimally until it erupts. The archivist grudge. The Scorpio grudge is not pettiness, it's trauma stored as data. If someone violates their trust, Scorpio doesn't just remember the event, they remember the pattern, the energetics, the tone, and the psychic signature. They may forgive, but the record remains etched. Number four, over control of emotional exposure. Scorpio believes vulnerability is dangerous unless proven safe. This leads to selective sharing, interrogation level discernment, emotional testing, suspicion without evidence, intensity without context, pushing people away to see who returns. It's not manipulation, it's emotional threat assessment. Number five, pressure induced eruptions. Fixed water can only hold so much. When it breaks, emotional volcanic eruption, cutting words, severing relationships suddenly, shutting down communication, purging everything at once. The eruption is never random. It, it's built up from years of quiet endurance. And number six, psychic overabsorption. Scorpio feels the undercurrent beneath every interaction. But this hyper attunement becomes dangerous when Scorpio reads into silence, assumes worst case scenarios. Oh, that extroverted intuition. They see tons of opportunities and they tend to chase both rabbits and then miss out on opportunities as well because the grass is always greener on the other side. But yes, the paranoia can be real. So yeah, it becomes dangerous when they start getting into the paranoia, reads into silence, assumes worst case scenarios, merges their intuition with fear, senses abandonment where there is none, picks up emotional contamination from others. Water absorbs, fixed water keeps. How fixed water interacts with extroverted thinking child. So your Scorpio section. So Scorpio ENFP. So we're combining astrology and psychology. So why TE child makes Scorpio even more intense? TE child is optimistic with that plus sign. The plus, you can see the plus sign and the minus sign. The plus signs are optimistic. They are it doesn't cost as much energy for your ego to use, so they're easier to use, and you can tend to get into hero child loops. So that is extroversion for Scorpio. So TE child is optimistic, impulsive, approval seeking, insecure when unvalidated, emotionally reactive, easily overwhelmed, and prone to tantrums when unheard. Combine that with Scorpio's fixed water, you get emotional pressure and external logic. Scorpio feels everything internally but tries to fix it externally. If ignored or misunderstood, the trial function flares. You're not listening. What, you don't understand my logic. Why can't you just do it this way? They become either emotional domineering or emotionally defeated. Hero child loop equals emotional overload and rushed solutions. Any hero and TE child loops create jumping to conclusions, emotional impulsiveness, over explaining, trying to fix everything immediately, projecting urgency, and emotional meltdown when blocked. TE child wants validation. Scorpio fixed water wants emotional safety. The result, a volcanic blend of feeling everything deeply and feeling like they must fix everything now. The shadow child. Child TE under stress becomes the trickster. Sarcasm, deflection, passive aggression, weaponizing facts, and stonewalling with reason. It's chaotic, not malicious. The child is scared and the water is rising. How Mars and Pluto intensify fixed water. Scorpio is ruled by two planets, Mars, ignition, and Pluto, deep time pressure. Together, they create emotional volcanoes beneath glaciers. Mars, the flame under the ice. Mars activates Scorpio, triggers passion, anger, sexual intensity, and protection instincts. But because Scorpio is fixed water, Mars' expression often becomes internalized. Instead of yelling, Scorpio stares, the Scorpio intense stare. Oh my God, there's no other stare. I can literally tell someone's a Scorpio just by their intense gaze. It's funny to me. So withdrawals, analyzes, waits, and smolders. This creates emotional pressure instead of release. Mars wants action, water wants containment, thus the shadow emotional implosions. Certainly can cause serious addictions. Pluto, the tectonic pressure. Pluto brings obsession, compulsion, depth psychology, soul contracts, karmic attachment, transformation, death, rebirth cycles, and power struggles. Pluto intensifies Scorpio's memory and emotional imprinting. What another sign forgets in a month, Scorpio remembers for a lifetime. Pluto rules trauma, bonding, control, fear, intimacy, and psychic survival. This is why Scorpio relationships can feel like destiny, obsession, karmic test, soul merging, and energetic entanglement. Pluto digs, Pluto unearths, and Pluto transforms. Together, Mars and Pluto make Scorpio the most emotionally powerful sign in astrology. How Scorpio heals fixed water. Scorpio healing is not about becoming lighter. It is about learning to flow, not freeze. Here are the core healing principles. Melt the ice through conscious expression. Scorpio must move emotions out of the inner vault through journaling, voice notes, art, music, speaking aloud to one safe person, embodied movement. Expression prevents implosion. Number 2, learn emotional temperature. Scorpio tends to jump between 0 emotional shutdown to 100 emotional eruption. Healing is learning the middle degrees: mild irritation, hurt feelings, confusion, discomfort, early boundaries, and early communication. Small releases prevent volcanic events. Trust through slow exposure. Scorpio cannot leap into vulnerability. They must test gradually. Healing equals practicing small doses of openness. Share one sentence, reveal one layer, express one need, and allow one flaw to be seen. Incremental vulnerability builds real intimacy. Let the ocean flow. Fixed water must learn to move like mutable and cardinal water. Let the feelings rise, fall, move, fluctuate, wash through, and be temporary. Emotions are not facts, they are weather. Release through ritual. Scorpio heals deeply through symbolic arts, or working with their hands, certainly. Burning letters, submerging objects in water, moon rituals, breathwork, purging, crying, cold plunges, and shadow journaling. They need ritualized transformation to feel free. The fixed water psyche. Why Scorpio is fixed water. Emotional, psychic, physics of an ice depth sign. Scorpio is not water the way most imagine it. Cancer is the tide and Pisces is the ocean. Scorpio is the glacier, an enormous reservoir of emotional power held in by pressure, memory, and instinct. Fixed signs hold. They grip, they sustain, they resist movement unless they choose the moment of transformation. So Scorpio holds emotions, desires, memory, betrayal, loyalty, trauma, attachment, instinct, intuition, expectations, wounds, fantasies, needs, and secrets. Scorpio's emotional world is a sealed pressure system. The more intense the experience, the deeper the layer where it gets stored. So this creates Scorpio's strengths: unwavering devotion, emotional stamina, psychic endurance, capacity to withstand storms that breaks others, loyalty that feels legendary, depth of perception, courage to face darkness, and ability to regenerate the self from ashes. Scorpio's shadow: emotional hoarding, internal implosions, sudden eruptions, fear of vulnerability, hypervigilance, suspicion, difficulty trusting, obsessive attachment, inability to let go, attraction to crisis, and emotional isolation. Scorpio psyche says, I will feel everything deeply, but I will reveal almost nothing voluntarily. The private distilled emotional intensity is why a Scorpio presence feels magnetic, intimidating, mysterious, powerful, distant, and hypnotic. It's not that Scorpio tries to be this way. This is simply the physics of fixed water. Fixed water in relationships. How Scorpio loves, bonds, tests, and commits. There's nothing casual about Scorpio connection. Even light connections have psychic charge. Scorpio's relationship pattern. Scorpio rarely bonds gradually. They bond through psychological resonance, emotional attunement, subconscious recognition, crisis or shared vulnerability, intensity or chemistry, deep conversation, shared values, and energetic compatibility. Once Scorpio bonds, they store the person inside their emotional field. This is why Scorpio attachments linger for years, even after separation. The Scorpio love arc. Number 1, the pull, magnetism, an intuitive click, eye contact that feels ancient, sensation of destiny. Number 2, the test, trust, evaluation. Scorpio observes your words, consistency, emotional tone, boundaries, secrets you reveal, and secrets you hide. Number 3, the merge, soul intimacy. If you pass the test, Scorpio opens emotionally, sexually, psychically, and spiritually. Number 4, the depth attachment. Now the relationship becomes transformational. Scorpio bonds at the level of soul and shadow. The trigger, fear of loss. Once Scorpio loves, fear of betrayal or abandonment surfaces. This is where testing intensifies. Number 6, the Phoenix transformation. Every Scorpio relationship has a death phase, an argument, crisis, betrayal, or shift that forces rebirth. Number 7, the devotion forever bond. If you survive the Phoenix moment, Scorpio's loyalty becomes absolute. Scorpio shadow in relationships, emotional withholding, jealousy, possessiveness, suspicion of motives, silent treatments, withdrawing to test loyalty, hyper awareness of tone and energy, dramatic reactions to betrayal, burning bridges, clinging energetically even when gone, taking everything personally. Scorpio light in relationships. Unwaveringly loyal, sexual intensity, emotional depth, intuitive bonding, fierce protection, empathetic intelligence, soul level understanding, ability to transform partners, passion, devotion, psychic mirroring, and healing presence. The emotional survival manual. How Scorpio survives life, love, and their own depths. Survival strategy number 1, emotional containment. Scorpio contains emotion until it can be understood. This keeps them from breaking down publicly, but it also isolates them. Survival strategy number 2, hyper attunement. Scorpio scans every room, every person, and every motive. This is protection, but it creates exhaustion and paranoia when overused. Survival strategy number 3, radical loyalty. When Scorpio attaches, they attach completely. This ensures safety, but it becomes self-sacrifice when the other person is not loyal. And survival strategy number 4, emotional armor. Scorpio shows only what they choose. This protects their heart, but it prevents true intimacy unless consciously softened. Attachment style of Scorpio through the ENFP, TE child, Scorpio personality. Because of the fixed water, introverted feeling, Pluto and Mars combination, Scorpio tends towards anxious, disorganized attachment. A blend of craving deep connection, fearing vulnerability, obsessing over loyalty, distrust of abandonment, desire to merge. Sorry, I think I just got a text message. Okay. Desire to merge and desire to maintain control. Give me 1 second. Oh, my daughter just texted me about our cat. Okay, sorry, our kitten is being wild right now. All right, so Scorpio, a blend. Okay, so we're talking about anxious, disorganized attachment. Craving deep connection, fearing vulnerability, obsessing over loyalty, distrust of abandonment, desire to merge, and desire to maintain control. Scorpio attachment traits include intense loyalty, slow trust, emotional testing, fear-based withdrawal, sexual bonding as emotional bonding, self-protective secrecy, and difficulty releasing